solid ice. Nothing to check the flames. Metropolis in terrible danger. Suicide of the chief of the fire brigade. The sky about us was full of driving blackness, but a strange yellow glare hung beneath it, and the print stood out clearly. The fire in Hammersmith, which we reported in our last edition, I read, has since assumed gigantic proportions. The United Fire Brigades of London are helpless to cope with it. The unprecedented severity of the frost and the fury of the hurricane which is now upon us have set at derision all our vaunted precautions. It is with water alone that our fire-extinguishing services have been hitherto armed to fight devouring flames, and now, in this moment of our desperate need, even a trickle of water is denied them. They are as helpless as the lay citizens. The fire in its awful majesty has beat down all resistance. Hammersmith is a burnt-out rubbish heap. West Kensington is a furnace. Among the dwellers in South Kensington and Chelsea, there is more panic than an invading army could produce. So far as human eye can see, nothing but a change of wind, or an act of God, can save the greatest city ever built by man from being in the next few hours changed to twisted, smoking ruins. Gerard dropped the paper with a cry of horror and thrust up the hatch. "A fiver if you keep your horse at a gallop," he shouted to the cabman. "My God, Methuen," he said to me, "what an awful thing this is!" "The newspaper has made the worst of it for the sake of sensation," I answered. "London is not built of wood. It is an impossible thing for the whole of it to burn." "I'm thinking of Queen's Gate and my little girl there. She'll have expected me 3 hours ago, and I'm here now." The cab stopped with a jar against the curb. I scraped the frost rime from a window and peered out. 5 great dray-loads of household goods were coming thundering past us, with the horses at a gallop. We got behind them and entered Piccadilly. The street was one solid block of every imaginable kind of vehicle, bearing salvage and fugitives eastwards. With infinite trouble, our cabman wormed his way across the struggling mass and tried to take us on our road by the smaller streets to southward, but these were one and all brim-filled by the traffic or blocked by broken-down vehicles. Gerard's impatience grew too great to be held in check any longer. He sprang from the cab, gave the man a £10 note, with orders to follow as best he could, and started off through the hurrying crowds on foot. Then, for the first time, we began fully to realise the fright which had bitten into 5 millions of people. The most orderly city on earth had been turned into a seething nest of anarchy. Even the police made no effort to quell the terror or curb its lashings. They had their own houses and their own lives to think about, and as we went on, with the gale beating in our faces, we ourselves became smitten with the prevailing spirit. We jostled and thrust at everyone that came in our way. We climbed over broken-down loads of rarities which lay in the roadways as though they had been so much coal. 3 times I saw bodies lying motionless in my path, and the passers-by cursed as they stumbled against them, but no one stopped to help. And once I saw a woman of elegant dress, who was driving a landau filled with trunks and boxes, drop the reins when a heavy dray cut off one of her wheels, and pull out a pistol and kill herself before 1,000 lookers-on. But no one gave her more than a cursory glance. Everyone looked ahead on his own path, and hurried away about his business, wrestling and thrusting among the others. And every minute the crush thickened, and every by-street vomited people. The air grew warmer as we pressed on westward. There was no glimpse of flame apparent yet. Nothing but fat black rolls of smoke could be seen overhead, with an underlining of yellow reflected from the distant blaze. And everywhere hung icicles, and the lines of the bursted water mains glistened in the roadways. We were in an Arctic city, more like St. Petersburg than the London we had known before. There was the taint of burning in every breath we drew, and from the inky sky above fell a constant patter of charred embers. As we drew on, these embers grew bright, and by the time we were through Brompton, and 7 had clanged out from some clock in the neighbourhood, live sparks were falling on the seething mobs in the streets, and the air grew sour with the smell of singeing cloth. But by the time we got abreast of the South Kensington Museum, the glow of the flames was beginning.